lot of people in recovery have unhelpful comments said to them by friends, family, and it can actually impact on recovery. There's a lot of common ones that I'm going to talk about in this video. Sometimes comments from loved ones come from a genuine place of concern, but I think it's really important to highlight things that can be quite unhelpful just to avoid saying them. Number one is, you don't look like you have an eating disorder. What does an eating disorder look like? There is not an image or a person which demonstrates an eating disorder. For a start, there are loads of different types like anorexia, bulimia, diabulimia, eating disorder not otherwise specified. There are so many different types of eating disorders, so there is not one. And also, eating disorders don't discriminate from age, sex, culture. So anyone from anywhere can develop an eating disorder. I think there's also another misconception that you have to be underweight to have an eating disorder, which is not true at all. In fact, there's more people that are healthy that struggle with an eating disorder than there is underweight. Another one, which is quite common, is when someone says, "Why can't you just eat?" So people with eating disorders that struggle to actually eat or restrict may have had this said to them in the past. It's not just a motion of picking up food and eating it, otherwise there would be no such thing as an eating disorder. It's a psychological illness, therefore it's mental. It's what goes inside in your head. It's not as easy as just picking up food and eating. It's not willpower, it's an eating disorder. And I think people refer to this or say this when someone may restrict their dietary intake. But you wouldn't wish it on anyone. It's not willpower, otherwise there'd be no eating disorders. It's a mental illness, something that goes on inside their head. This is when people might say, "Oh, why didn't you give me some tips?" You don't want any tips in developing an eating disorder. Or you've been suffering for a long time now, are you not well yet? Eating disorders can take years to recover from. You can fully recover. People have periods of doing well, other periods of struggling more. We've just had a pandemic, so people have struggled more. So you can have lapses, relapses. That doesn't mean to say that you're always going to be that way, but it's not like a straight road where it just keeps going up and up. It's like a bumpy road, so it can go up and down. Is that, say someone's struggling with anorexia and a side effect is losing weight, someone might say to you, "Can you not see that you look awful?" And I think a lot of the time people assume that you want to look that way, you want to look unhealthy, you want to look underweight, and you like your body being like that. But that's not the case at all. Number one is that some sufferers may struggle with body dysmorphia. So what they see in the mirror is not the reality of what others see. So they can't see what other people can see. And another one is that a lot of the time people are aware of what they look like and they don't like the way they look. I didn't like the way that I looked, but I just couldn't change that overnight because, again, it's a mental illness. So believe it or not, people don't want to look like that. It's just a side effect of sometimes what's going on in your head. People with eating disorders have been called selfish before. Eating disorders are selfish illnesses, but that's the illness, that isn't the person that's suffering. It's not their fault. They are going through something difficult and they are fully aware that it can impact on people around them, which isn't nice at all, but it's not their fault either. And they are conscious of this as well. It's not they're completely oblivious that it could potentially affect other people.